I came to Tennessee to escape my past. But on my first night here, the sheriff arrested me, and not because of the law. He wanted something else, something I feared more than imprisonment. And when we met again, without uniforms, without authority, the truth became more dangerous than chains that I didn't move here for a fresh start. I moved here because staying would have killed me. 3 months ago, I walked out of a life that was already halfway buried. A boyfriend who cheated, then blamed me for being too distant. A job that smiled to my face and stabbed me in the back. A father who stopped calling the day I came out. So I packed a bag and drove west until my engine wheezed and died outside a one-bar town in Tennessee. Silver Hills. No skyline. No noise. Just silence loud enough to rattle your bones. At first, I thought that silence was peace. No one knew who I was. No one cared. But quiet has a way of turning cruel. Every night I lay in that rented room, listening to the creak of the floorboards and wondering if I'd run from something or straight into it. I told myself I wouldn't go near the bar. I knew what happened in places like that to people like me. But on the 12th night of insomnia, I gave in. It was Friday. The neon sign outside buzzed like a warning. Inside, it was heat and whiskey breath and a jukebox stuck in the past. I kept my head down, ordered a beer, sat with my back to the wall. I wasn't looking for trouble. Trouble found me anyway. He was drunk before I walked in. Middle-aged, red-faced, the kind of man who starts fights just to remember what his fists feel like. His laugh cracked through the room when he saw me. "City boy, huh?" he slurred. "Sad little face, wrong place." I ignored him. You learn early not to feed fire. He didn't like that. Boots stomped across the floor. Then his hand landed on my shoulder, hard. "You too good to talk?" I stood. Not to fight, just to move. But he shoved me back. My beer spilled across my hand. "You got a problem?" I asked, calm but tight. He smiled. The kind of smile that never means anything good. "Looks like you do." His fist came fast. Years ago, I would have backed down. But too many years of swallowing every insult had taught me this. Sometimes silence isn't strength. It's permission. So I hit back. Once. Clean. Right in the jaw. Everything blurred after that. Shouts. Shoves. The crack of a stool hitting the floor. Someone cheering, because pain is always more fun when it isn't yours. And then everything stopped. Not because of me. Because of him. Footsteps. Heavy. Measured. The door slammed shut behind them. The sheriff. He didn't yell. Didn't need to. His presence was a blade sharp and final. The room parted around him like he owned it. Maybe he did. He looked between us. My fist still raised. The drunk clutching his face. His voice came low. "That's enough." No one argued. He moved first toward the drunk, twisting his arm behind his back without a word. Then he looked at me. No expression. "No worms." "You too," he said. Not a request. A verdict. I blinked. He started it. "Ask anyone." "Still swung," he said flatly. "Come on." The cuffs were cold. The walk outside colder. I stared ahead, jaw clenched, rage tight in my gut. I didn't come here to fight. I didn't come here to feel this, helpless again. The patrol truck door shut behind me. Felt too loud. Like a door slamming on the freedom I'd barely started to feel. We drove in silence. He didn't look at me. I didn't look at him. But I could feel him, the tension rolling off him like heat. At the station, I expected holding. Steel bars. A drunk tank and a long night. But he took me a different way. Down a hall. Past the cells. Toward an office with frosted glass and the word sheriff painted in fading black. He opened the door. Gestured me inside. "Seat." I didn't move. I thought I was under arrest. He didn't answer. Just waited. He sat. He circled behind the desk. Didn't speak for a long time. Just studied me like I was a problem he didn't know how to solve. Finally, he said, "You didn't start it." Something in his tone made my skin prickle. "Then why the cuffs?" I snapped. He leaned back, arms crossed. "Because sometimes protocol wins over truth." "That's supposed to make me feel better?" "No." A pause. Then softer. "You looked like someone trying to disappear." I know what that looks like. I stared at him. The silence was thick, charged, like a storm waiting to break. His gaze didn't leave mine. I'll cut you loose, he said. Tonight. No charges. But stay out of fights. People here don't forget easily. Something in his eyes lingered. Not threat. Not power. Curiosity. Frustration. Recognition. He uncuffed me without a word. The metal fell away, but the pressure stayed. I stood. Hesitated. I didn't come here to fight anyone, I said. He nodded. Doesn't mean the fight's not already in you. By morning, the story had already grown legs. At the gas station, the woman behind the counter stopped mid-sentence when she saw me. At the diner, a man nodded with that look, the kind that said I heard. In a town this small, truth doesn't matter as much as version number 4 told over black coffee. I'd thrown the first punch.
Ide resista rest.
I'd looked at the sheriff funny. Didn't matter that he'd let me go. Didn't matter that I hadn't started anything. The only thing people remembered was that I got cuffed. I walked home from the store with a paper bag in hand and my ears burning. I tried to convince myself I didn't care, that this place wasn't home and never would be, that I hadn't come here to be liked, just left alone. But shame sits heavy, and silence sharpens it. That night, I lay on the same narrow bed, watching shadows crawl across the ceiling. I kept seeing his face, the way he'd looked at me across that desk, like I was something he hadn't planned for, like I made him uncomfortable in a way he couldn't name. And maybe that's what haunted me, because for a second, a quiet second just before the cuffs came off, I think I saw something in him that looked too much like me. Wrong place, wrong person, wrong time. I told myself to let it go, to forget the weight of his stare, to forget how close he'd stood. But forgetting is a luxury, and I was never good at lying to myself. The next morning, I took the long way to the hardware store. I'd picked up shifts there after the fight, just enough to keep rent paid and hands busy. No one there asked questions, and I liked it that way. I stepped inside, hoping for routine, stability, anything but more eyes on me. Instead, I found him, not in uniform. He stood by the back wall, talking with the owner, casual, easy. His badge wasn't on his belt. No gun. Just a man in jeans, holding a box of screws like it was any other morning. I froze. He noticed me before I could turn. Our eyes met, and something passed between us. Sharp and silent. Not anger. Not even tension. Recognition. I should have looked away. Should have acted like he was no one. But I didn't. He said something to the owner, handed off the box, and started walking toward me. Slow. Controlled. Like he didn't want to spook me. I braced. Didn't expect to see you here, he said. No edge in his voice. No wait. I work here, I replied flatly. He nodded, glanced at the shelves, then back at me. You okay? It wasn't the question I'd expected. You asking as the sheriff, or? I let it hang. He paused. As someone who maybe handled things wrong. I didn't answer. He ran a hand over the back of his neck. Look, I was rough on you that night. Not just protocol. He stopped himself. That's not your problem. No, I said, stepping around him. But it became mine. I moved to the next aisle. He followed. Why'd you fight back? He asked quietly. I turned. Because I've been swallowing punches for years. Figured it was time someone else flinched. He didn't flinch. Fair. I stared at him. You're not what I expected. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. That makes two of us. We stood in silence. Somewhere near the front, a bell rang as someone entered. Voices murmured. Time didn't. He spoke again, voice low. People are talking. About the fight. About me letting you go. I didn't respond. I've worn this badge a long time, he continued. Never cared much what people thought. But now, I can't tell if they're whispering about you or me. Probably both, I said. He looked at me, and for the first time, there was no armor in his face. Just a man. Tired. Human. I keep thinking about that night, he said. Not the fight. Not the report. You. Sitting in that chair. Why? He shook his head. Because I saw something I recognized. I should have walked away. I didn't. After he left, I couldn't focus on anything. My hands shook while stocking shelves. Every customer felt like a reminder I didn't ask for. And when the shift finally ended, I didn't go home. I walked, past houses I didn't know, past the river that shimmered under a dim sky. The town faded behind me and still I kept moving. I didn't want to see him again. But I didn't want to forget that look in his eyes, either. A look that said maybe, just maybe, I wasn't the only one hiding. It was almost midnight when the alarm tripped at the warehouse. I was in the back, sweeping near the loading dock. My second job, less about money, more about staying busy. The nights were quiet, usually, but the shriek of metal against metal made my chest lock up. Then came the slam of the door, heavy boots, someone yelling, "Who's there?" Not me. Someone else had triggered the motion sensor or forced the back gate open. Either way, protocol said to call it in. So I did. And of course, it was him. The sheriff arrived 10 minutes later. Alone. His headlights carved across the empty lot. I watched from behind the dock lights as he stepped out, hand near his belt. Even without backup. I walked out to meet him before he could shout my name. "No one inside," I said. His shoulders lowered slightly, but his eyes didn't leave me. "You check. Warehouse is clear. Just noise and shadows." He scanned the perimeter, then looked back at me. Could have waited for me. I didn't want to. That came out sharper than I meant. His mouth twitched, not quite a smile. "You always this direct?" "Only when I'm tired." He stepped closer. Not threatening, just present. "I keep ending up here," he said. I noticed. We stood a few feet apart. Street lamp overhead. No one else around. Just us and the quiet hum of electricity between what should be a routine check and something that never got to finish being a conversation. "You working late a lot now?" he asked. "Can't sleep," I said. "This helps." He nodded. "Yeah, I know the feeling." Something in his voice landed heavy. I crossed my arms. "Why are you here alone?" I asked. "Don't you have deputies?" "I do. They're not me." That answer wasn't about the warehouse. He paused, looked down the dark stretch of road. "Back when I first took this badge, I thought it made me safe. Not from others, from myself. Like it gave me a script to follow. Structure. Orders." He looked at me. "But then you walked into my bar." "It wasn't your bar," I muttered. "No," he said. "But I watched you like it was." I didn't move. My pulse ticked higher. "That night, I wasn't angry you hit someone," he went on. "I was angry I wanted to step in before it even happened. Angry I noticed you at all." I stared at him. "You arrested me because you were confused." "No," he said. "I arrested you because I was afraid of what it meant that I wasn't." I looked away. "I don't want your guilt," I said. "I don't want a confessional." "I know," he said. We stood in silence. The warehouse behind us, full of shadows. The town around us, full of people who'd never understand why this conversation mattered more than the break-in. "I'm not out," he said. I looked at him. He was still facing forward, like admitting that was easier without eye contact. "I didn't think you were," I said. "You scare me," he added. "Not because of who you are. Because of what you make me feel." That stopped everything. For weeks, I told myself I imagined it. The way his voice shifted, the way his eyes lingered too long, the heat in that office. I tried to bury it under anger and pride. But here it was, real, spoken, and somehow it made my chest ache more than any of it. "You think you're the first man who's scared of wanting something he's not allowed to?" I said. "You think you get points for saying it out loud?" "No," he replied. "I think I've already lost too many." I looked at him again, and I saw it not power, not authority, just fear. And underneath it, something fragile, something real. "I don't know what you want," I said. "Neither do I," he admitted. "But I know it's not nothing." The wind picked up. Somewhere a dog barked. The moment stretched thin. "I need to lock the back gate," I said, stepping past him. He didn't stop me, just stood there, silent, while I slid the chain and clicked the padlock into place. When I turned back, he was still watching. "If you keep coming here," I said, "I'm going to keep asking why." He nodded. "Then I'll have to start answering." He walked back to his truck without another word.
No goodbye. No promises.
Just the sound of gravel under his boots and the engine turning over. I watched the taillights fade until there was nothing left but quiet. But it wasn't the same quiet. Because now it carried a name. By the end of the week, the town had made up its mind about us, without asking either of us. They didn't say it directly. No one ever does. It came through sideways glances, sudden quiet when I walked into a room, coworkers who used to chat now keeping things short. The rumors weren't just about the fight anymore. They were about him, about why the sheriff let me go, about what he saw in me. At the hardware store, a guy I worked with, Kyle, finally said what everyone else danced around. "You and him, is that a thing?" I didn't answer, not with words. That was enough. From then on, the silence got thicker. 2 days later, I saw the sheriff again. By accident, maybe. On the edge of town, where the river curved behind a stretch of trees, I sometimes went to clear my head. It wasn't a secret spot, but no one really used it. Except now, apparently, him. He stood near the water, arms crossed, like he was waiting to be caught thinking too much. I almost turned around. Almost. But then he saw me. There was no tension in his posture. No attempt to explain why he was there. He just looked at me and waited. So I walked closer. We stood in silence for a moment. Water moved behind us. Wind pressed through the grass. "They're talking," I said. He nodded. "I know. And you're okay with that?"
No.
Another beat of silence. "I built a life here," he said. "One that works because people think they know me. I wear the badge, I do the job. They trust that. And now they're questioning it," I said. "They're questioning me," he corrected. "Which is worse?" I looked at him. "So fix it. Tell them there's nothing going on." His jaw tensed. "Is that what you want?" he asked. I didn't answer, because I didn't know. Some part of me did want that, the clean break, the safety of fading back into anonymity. But another part, louder now, wanted to see what happened if we stopped running from the tension that kept pulling us back. "You still hiding behind the badge?" I asked. He didn't flinch. "Maybe, but it's getting harder." We stood there, the air between us full of all the things neither of us could say when other people were around. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen," he said. "I know. I didn't expect you to matter." I looked at him sharply. "I mean," he started. "I know what you mean," I said. "You didn't plan for me." "No," he said. "But I'm not ready to lose you either. Even if I never had you." The words hit hard, not because they were romantic, because they were true. For all the tension and near misses, we hadn't crossed any lines. Not physically, not really, but emotionally. We'd been circling the fire for weeks, pretending we weren't warming our hands. "You're scared," I said. "Yeah. Of being seen. Of being known," he corrected. "Really known." I exhaled slowly. "Welcome to the club." He let out a short laugh. Not amused, just tired. "What do you want from me?" I asked. He looked at me then. Fully. Directly. "A chance." I blinked. "I don't know what that looks like yet," he said. "But I know I don't want to keep pretending you're just a guy I arrested." I crossed my arms. "You don't get to have it both ways." "I know. I'm not some secret you can lock up when the town gets nosy. I'm not asking you to be." "Then what are you asking?" He took a breath. "To walk with you. Just without pretending anymore." The simplicity of it stunned me. Not a promise. Not a plan. Just a step. Together. I didn't answer right away. My thoughts swirled. Memory, fear, anger, want. But then I nodded. Once. Small. Real. And for the first time he smiled, not with performance or pressure. Just quiet relief. We didn't touch. Didn't move closer. But something had shifted. Not enough to erase the town's whispers. Not enough to make it safe. But enough to stop pretending we didn't see each other clearly. The fallout didn't take long. 2 days after the river conversation, a woman stormed into the hardware store. She didn't yell, but her voice was sharp enough to cut glass. Said her son didn't need to see that kind of influence while buying nails. I stood still while she ranted. Carl didn't look at me. No one did. She walked out without buying anything. That night, the store owner called me into his office. Said things were getting complicated. That small towns stay small for a reason. That maybe I'd be happier somewhere more open. He didn't fire me, just made it clear the door was unlocked if I wanted out. I wanted to feel angry. Instead, I felt numb. This was why people like me didn't stay long in towns like this. Why we learned to be quiet, even when we had something to say. I didn't go to the river after that. I didn't wait for him to show up. I figured it was over. That whatever passed between us had reached its natural limit. Until he showed up at my door.
No uniform. No vai.
Just him. Tense. Determined. I heard, he said. I didn't invite him in. He stood on the porch, looking at me like I was the only steady thing in his world. You okay? I laughed once. What do you think? He nodded.
I'm sorry.
You sorry because it's hard now? I asked. Or because it's visible? He didn't answer. That's the thing about truth, I said. It doesn't stay polite. Kicks doors open. It gets loud. I know. You've lived this whole life being respected, obeyed, listened to. You think I ever had that luxury? He flinched, just slightly.
No.
I get pushed out of a job and everyone just shrugs. That's the cost of existing. But you, all you'd have to do is say one sentence out loud, and the town would have to decide if it loves your silence more than your truth. He looked at me. What sentence? I stared at him. You know which one. The moment held. Then, for the first time, he looked afraid, not of being caught, but of being real. I can't say it yet, he admitted. I nodded. Then I can't stay. He didn't try to stop me. He stepped back. Let me close the door. That night I packed. Not everything. Just what I came with. By morning, I was ready to leave the town like I found it. Silent and unbothered. At the gas station on the edge of town, I was filling the tank when I heard the commotion. Someone inside was yelling. Loud. Familiar voice. Then another voice, deeper. Calmer. But firm. I turned. Through the glass, I saw him. Facing down the same man who'd started that fight in the bar all those weeks ago. Don't talk about him like that, the sheriff said. He didn't start the fight. You did. And I let it slide. I won't do that again. The guy muttered something. Ugly. Low. And the sheriff raised his voice. Loud enough for everyone to hear. You don't like that I let him go? Fine. You want to gossip about me? Fine. But here's the truth. I saw something in him, and I wasn't brave enough to admit it until now. The place went silent. No one moved. He turned, saw me through the glass, and walked outside. I can't fix the town overnight, he said. And I can't promise it won't get worse before it gets better. I stared at him. But I can stop lying, he said. At least to myself. We stood by the gas pump. The sky was pale with early light. You leaving? He asked. Was. Still want to. I thought about it. About the silence, the whispers, the weight of being seen and judged for something that never should have needed defending. But I also thought about him. The man who stepped out of his own shadow to say what mattered. No, I said. He didn't smile, just nodded, like he knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. But we were finally on it side by side.